Welcome to PENSDOWN. This is where we talk about the journeys of journalists. So much goes on behind the scenes, but they will never add it to their stories because it is against the principles of journalism. But on this platform called PENSDOWN, we turn the CCTV camera onto ourselves as journalists and tell you all that we grapple with before you get to hear that news or before we come live to present that show to you. Today, I've been joined by a colleague who is a journalist by profession and a passionate social development enthusiast with more than 10 years experience reporting for Ghana's most reputable business newspaper, the Business and Financial Times, popularly called BNFT. He is a fellow of the 2021 Kwame Kakeri Fact-Checking Fellowship and co-authored a fact-checking report, which was adjudged the best at the end of the fellowship. He is also a member of the Ghana Journalists Association, the Institute of Public Relations Ghana, Institute of Financial and Economic Journalists, and the Ghana Agricultural and Rural Development Journalists Association. Among other accomplishments, both local and international, he was honored as the 2016 Tourism Correspondent of the Year by the Ghana Tourism Authority for his contribution to the development of the local tourism industry. He was also nominated among 10 journalists from across the world as a recipient of the 2017 IFAJ All Tech Young Leaders in Agricultural Journalism Award, and the only African journalist to have participated in the International Center for Journalists Maiden First 100 Days reporting program of the Donald J. Trump administration in the US. He is a product of Ghana Institute of Journalism, Christian Service University College, and the Institute of Business Management and Journalism, from where he earned his master's, bachelor's, and diploma in that order. His professional interests include data journalism, the extractive industry, and geopolitics. Kizito Cudjoe is my guest on PENSDOWN today. You're welcome, my brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It looks like you spent all your life in the print industry, am I right?
Yes. But all my 10 years journey so far has been spent in the print journalism industry. Yes.
How did you end up in journalism in the first place? You know, there are a lot of professions. There is carpentry, there is masonry, there is shoemaking, there is teaching, there is accountant, banking, what have you. Why did you choose the pen over maybe the suit or some working gear somewhere?
You know, pen has always been visible to me as a child. Pen and chalk, because growing up, you know, I found pen and books, books of all kinds. Spread around my domicile where I was growing up, where I was being brought up. My dad was a teacher. My mother was also a teacher, and now they are both retired. So, of course, you can understand why my closeness to pen, you know, reached me that far. So, but then I grew up in a mining town of Tapa.
Okay.
So, one of the things, every mining kid, most children within a mining environment will think of doing is to become a miner when you. But yes, journalism found me, and I found my way there actually. So along the way, I think that I wanted to do geological engineering.
Okay.
But then also I realized that I saw around me a lot of things that I felt I could talk about. Initially, my interest was in becoming a broadcaster.
Okay.
Well, as you know, things will turn out. I entered into journalism school, and I began to nurture my love for the print industry because I realized I could write more than I could talk.
Yeah.
And why not then, become a print journalist instead? And I had a very fine opportunity when after completion, I wanted to intern for the Business and Financial Times Kumasi office. In fact, I think that's where all the journey began. And it's been a lovely journey.
Wow. For the 10 years you have been in this field, so many of your colleagues, seniors, and even juniors have abandoned the crafts. There's a lot of attrition that this profession is suffering. Highly trained, qualified ones who had a voice or a pen in the system have abandoned it. Some have gone into corporate communications. For others, they've entered entirely different fields. What from your corner do you think is accounting for this trend?
I mean, first off, I think that, it's a common phrase on the lips of most journalists that I have come across, and particularly myself also at some point, journalism doesn't pay. I mean, it's one of the things we say to each other most of the times, because if you, just like you're saying, if you sometimes you find yourself, or you find yourself in an environment where somebody coming from whichever profession he or she may be coming from begins to talk down a journalist, probably because of, what she thinks she has, and you may not be able to show off anything to that effect. Then you begin to really realize that, of course, journalism doesn't pay, but you have to also think about the humans work that you are doing as a journalist, the work you do. That's why we always say that the pen is mightier than the sword. And, I think that, so just to be brief, it's the number one reason a lot of us would want to, and I mean, it's been happening, and if care is not taken, journalism will always be a stepping stone for many people who, in the industry.
Interesting, really, really, really interesting submissions there. You've been here for 10 years. How many times have you been approached with a bait, be it financial or material, to compromise the details of any report you were doing or completely trash it? How many times?
For 10 years, it's been so many times. For 10 years, it's been so many times. And I hope I can give you a story to sort of answer you. So on one occasion, I, in the company of other colleague journalists, were covering something, related to illegal mining.
Okay.
And we found ourselves in the thick of a forest reserve.
Okay.
And initially, when we got into the enclave, we thought that the miners, the legal miners, they wouldn't be anywhere to be found. And for that matter, I'll be able to, take whatever details were there to take and then go back. Rather unfortunately or fortunately, they sized our numbers, the security we had, and they realized they could overpower us. I mean, that's how I saw it. And so they began to come out, and then we started interacting with them because we went there with no bad intention.
Yeah.
We opened up to them, and we started having conversations. Now, in the middle of the conversation, then these guys said, "Okay, that's fine. I think that you are doing your work just as we are doing ours, be it illegal. I mean, we are still doing it." And so, for taking the time to come here, we know that you traveled far. I mean, to come to this, place. Maybe we want you to take this to buy water on your way back to your workplace or whichever location you were coming from. I mean, imagine the situation. Imagine the situation you find yourself in. would you, these are some of the dilemmas we face. Would you take the ice water money or you not take the ice water money?
And that ice water money, I tell you, can even pay for rent.
And that ice water money, when you take, what's going to happen to the story? But if you are a person of conscience, if you find yourself within you know, an environment where there's nothing but professionalism, then you know how to work, you know, within such circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes, you risk your life if you fail to take this money. If you give them any indication that, look, I'm not going to take this money, then you are clearly exposing yourself. You are telling them that, look, I'm going out there to do this story. But then again, just as some of us have always said, in such situations, you could just reason up and take whatever it is, go and let your conscience do the talking. Sit by your computer and do the work that you went there to do, because I mean that is what you were trained for. And risking our life is part of the journalism profession. I mean, you know, there are some of the casualties that when one is gearing up to become a journalist, you are reminded of. And so, yes, on many occasions, we have had approaches. I mean, and it comes in various forms.
Before you continue, I'm interested in this illegal mining people story. Now, did the circumstance make it clear that this was meant to douse the potency of your writing?
But of course, I mean, what else? Of course. You know, for some time now, I mean, if you look at these past governments that we've had, almost everyone has a program or initiative of a sort to want to address illegal mining. So, I mean, we know that illegal mining has been something that is worrying the country for a very long time, and you know, these discussions and the work that journalists also have to do to help address illegal mining has always also been there. And so, if you are there to write about illegal mining and or their activities, their operations, and how it's affecting the environment and how it's impacting communities and how it's impacting babies and children within the neighborhood. Of course, once the neighborhood is polluted, of course, you know how it will go a long way to affect everybody within the immediate environment. And so they knew that what we were there to do was to take the report, objective report, and tell it. And so whichever money they will give you, even if they had chosen to peacefully escort us to our what is it, where we came from, definitely that gesture alone will be something that they will be doing just so that you'll be able to compromise the work that you had gone there to do. And so for me, well, I knew it from the start that this is what it was meant for, and I did my job. I did anything. That's what we are supposed to do.
You have almost defined a career at the Business and Financial Times. What has kept you going all these years at one place?
Wow. I think what has kept me going at PNFT has largely been the pool of professionals we have there, and the fact that you learn so much when you are in such environment. You are challenged to learn as well, and they recognize you know, employee development also.
Okay.
Yes, you have the opportunity or you have the room to you know, sort of seek higher education while still in employment. I remember I started BNFT when I had a diploma.
Okay.
Yes, with a diploma in journalism. I got my degree in communication. I did BA in communication, still with BNFT, and I managed to grab a master's, still working on the Business and Financial Times. So, I mean, some of these things, I mean, has really have given us the motivation to want to stay. Of course, everyone has a career path. You look at the fact that, okay, at this juncture, you are growing, you need to be at this level. When the opportunity comes, of course, one will want to assess the intent of, the opportunities, and then take the appropriate decisions. But for BNFT, I think that one of the greatest motivation has been the room given to grow and learn always on the job.
When you started journalism, social media hadn't taken a center stage in the work of the media. Today, I can say that the media has been launched into a unique era of social media where everything revolves around it. From where you sit, how has social media affected the work of journalists?
I mean, it has affected the work greatly. And look, listen to its name, social media. Yes, social media. We were referred to. In fact, you didn't used to hear the word traditional media, in the past more than it is now, and it's largely because of the advent of social media. It's look, the stories you are chasing, if care is not taken, by the time you get back to the newsroom, somebody has picked details from the story and splashed it on social media, and you know what it does to a journalist who's trying to pick exclusives, who's trying to pick scoops. You understand? And particularly the bit about online. Look, you are competing not only with people who are on the radio, but also, the online journalists. So you are out there to pick the information with these set of journalists. And then by the time you get to the newsroom, you are trying to file your story. He's already done it. Okay, fine. It doesn't matter, because we are exploring different angles for the stories. You are hoping that the person will keep the story on their online platform and allow their readers, their subscribers, to go there and read. But then he would use social media, or she would use social media to again share the story, and sometimes giving the information out before your story also comes. So it's one of the things. If you look at also the fact that the audience share is dwindling now due to social media, a lot of people would want to use social media to find news, as against people who ordinarily would want to stick to the traditional media to read about these developments. You look at the traffic on some of our sites, it's gone down. And when this happens, of course, you know that advertisers are also looking at traffic. And for the advertiser, rather than come straight to you to advertise in your paper, he finds that a lot of these guys are on social media. So why don't I buy slot on social media? So in many ways, social media has, and it keeps impacting the work we do as journalists. But also there are the positive sides of it. And we would realize it the more when news organizations in the country, in Africa, begin to consider the best approach to social media. Look, I tell you what, I remember during, I'm sure you were going to ask, but during one of my trips to the States, I had opportunity to be in one organization, I think McClatchy, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the name really well. So these guys they own a lot of different media houses. Now, one of the things they try to do is to put in place mechanisms to ensure that, they are able to tell the traffic on their mediums. And then they use that tool that they have inform advertisers. So when you want to advert in any of their platform or on any of their platforms, they tell you what, you can go ahead and place ad wherever you like. But then we have an opportunity, we have an option also for us to advise you where to place the ad. And if you subscribe or if you buy into their option, they will not tell you. But if you want to go by that option, then you would have to pay extra. You understand? Yes, and this is using social media. You understand? Using some of these that is available to them. If you go on Twitter right now, you see a lot of Twitter speak forums for a lot of these tabloids in UK, for example. Of course, in the US as well. Sometimes I ask, where are the local ones? How are we, making use of these platforms? The positives are there. We can just sit back and begin to realize that if we talk about digital transformation, it is not only about setting up systems, digital systems in your workplaces, but also trying as much as possible to embed these social media tools in the actual work that you do. You understand? Making it reflect and trying to make some monetize it in a way and make the money that you are losing ordinarily due to the presence of social media.
Okay. After more than 10 years, if we are to go back into time, 12 or 15 years, are you still going to choose journalism?
That is a tough question. That's a really tough question, But who knows? Who knows where like we say in our local language,
that's right. Yeah.
Sometimes if you look back, you would wish that you could if you could turn back the hand of the clock, right?
Yeah, sure.
You want to change some things, correct some things you really didn't do well, but who knows? I think that my love for the media work is that strong. And if perhaps I had not come in or as a journalist, probably I would have used another means to still be part of the profession or the industry. And so, but straight away to say I would still want to be a journalist would be a tough one to answer. I tell you. Yeah.
What's your take on Sully? What's your take on Sully?
This is a tough one. It's a tough one. Okay, so pardon me for this. While in the States, my host organization was a Pittsburgh Post Gazette.
Okay.
Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania. So I would want to answer the Sully question by telling you this story.
Okay.
So my first day on the job, on the trip, we were to go out. I think that we were going out to pick a story.
Okay.
And then I realized there was a cafeteria there. And so these guys could just enter the cafeteria. And this is not where you have somebody waiting on you to serve you. And you go pick most stuff.
Serve yourself.
All by yourself, and then you leave. And then before you leave, there's a transport session.
Okay.
Where you go and you have a bunch of keys all over. Some for SUVs, some for saloon cars, and whatnot. You pick one, you pick your logbook, and off you go. You go to the car park, a very big one as such. And then we hop into one of the cars. And then we get to where they were having I think it was something like town hall meeting. It was something like a meeting. Yes. And then
what you have described, are you describing the life around a luxury apartment, or this is a journalism environment?
A journalism environment.
Wow.
A journalism environment. This is a media house.
Wow.
Who's Gazette? Yeah. So we get to the town hall, and coffee is served and everything. But of course, when you were coming, everything was almost given to you, or you almost picked everything. Nobody transported you to the location. You transported yourself by using the company's resources. And so, even for the coffee that has been served at the town hall meeting, you, the journalist, you are not encouraged to go for it. And so you have your own coffee to drink, you drink your coffee, you get back, you do your interviews. After everything, you hop into your car, you drive back. So you see the situation I've narrated to you. Nothing motivates you to want to chase after somebody to give you some peanuts. Just because you've come to cover their event. And then again, I also realized that it's not about events there. Yes, of course, events do take place, but the coverage of the event is quite different from how we cover the events.
Okay.
Yes, the nature of our coverage often tells more of, I'm speaking generally.
Okay.
It's more of, a PR kind of. Most of the stories we do would want to go at the end of the day to promote the organization. That they are organizing the event. But if you look at the NFT, for example, for us, the story has of course. So on the job, for example, get an invite from Buipa. You understand that you are going to Buipa. Before you step out and go, you should have done research. What's the latest news about Buipa? You understand? Okay, how do you connect the latest news or the latest development to the current development? How are you able to ask the right questions such that you'll be able to get information for the general public, the public, whose lives are affected by the operations of WePower, whether positive or negative. It's like that. I'm just giving you that example. And so before you go out there, you kind of have an idea of what you're going to do. And so everything fits in after the program has come to an end, and you pick your angles and ask your questions, you do your interviews here and there, and then you come back to the newsroom and begin to want to do your stuff. And it's a financial newspaper, you understand? And so make sure the things you do also has that business element, you understand? It's about the MD having marital affairs. If there's a money bit to it, if you can establish a conflict of interest situation, then there's something about business. Hey, who knows? That's how you're going to do. But then, generally, if you look at what happens in our local media setup, we often do promotional stories. And because you are going to end up doing promotional stories, you are then faced with the reality of asking for something back. Because look, if you were to come to, if they were to come and place an ad, it was going to cost them more than that. And so people would want to easily think that it's okay, let's take the TNT and go, And well, the TNT also, yes, you'd want to take it and you take it, but how does that also influence the kind of work that you do? And be honorable sometimes about how you take some of these TNT. You see colleagues pestering events organizers, for such things. And I think that it means that it's very telling as to how, you see events organizers come back later and they want to disrespect us for want of, use of better way. In a lot of ways. They want to talk down on us. I have an experience where I participated in was something close to a review. I think it was one of the utility company. I don't know. And then after the event, in fact, it was even during the event, towards the end of the event, sheets were passed around to take names of journalists who participated in the event. After the event, I stepped out. I was about leaving, and a gentleman calls me, hands me over 10 cedis. Ask him, what do I do with these 10 cedis? Say, oh, that's what we are giving for your participation in the event.
Which year are we talking about?
It was about, if my memory serves me right, just about 5 years, 6 years ago. And but I was offended. If you want to buy me,
yes,
buy me.
It's insulting. It's insulting.
Yes. So I gave him back the money and I asked him how he even got to realize that I'm part of it. He said, "Oh, but didn't you write your name for it?" So I searched for where the list was and deeply cancelled my name. I gave him back the sheet to go and to continue with whichever people who were writing down their names, and I left because as at the time when I left my my office and I was going to the event, I even went with I hired a taxi to the place because at the time the office car wasn't available for use, so I had to do another means. And so I get there, and definitely after the event also I was going to go. And that my coming and my going, I mean,
was more than there.
It's going to cost me somewhere around 50 cedis. You understand? And it was insulting.
Yes.
And so I think not many people would want to talk about. I wouldn't be kidding you. I won't be kidding you. Not many people would want to be talking about sully because it's something that a lot of journalists are not comfortable discussing. And I think that if media houses would be fair to themselves and begin to look at how to resource journalists, especially when they are covering events, it will go a long way to help address this kind of sully situation. If in our case, for example, I mean, week in, week out, an amount is set aside for your TNT, and you are paid for all the stories that you'll be pursuing, because we do editorial meetings, you submit your storylines for the editorial meetings, and you are expected to deliver. And some fees will be dedicated to you to use as you pursue your story, either by way of buying internet data or by way of
making phone calls.
Exactly. Going to the person and having a face-to-face interaction. It is important that you have. And so some of these things help to cut down the element of sully with us. But I can't say for the larger majority of journalists who find themselves in the sully situation. It's a very sensitive one.
In fact, some have even told me on this platform that they had to survive on sully for years because they were never paid.
I think I know few colleagues who have had to survive on sully, and that is the other thing also, because you realize journalism is a serious business.
Yes,
the media work is a very serious enterprise, but unfortunately, standards do not work in our country. You understand? Because if standards do work, you expect that. There will be some kind of authorities that would ensure that. If you employ people to work as journalists, you give them what is due them. You understand? They are rightly or rightfully resourced to do their work, and they are given the right pay. And this is one of the reasons that we see a lot of unprofessionals in the system. It's accounting for the unprofessionals in the system, because then people will not want to risk and bring in a professional journalist. They want to, get this guy in to come and join us because he speaks either speak good English, or he's able to speak some Gucci or
he dresses well.
Exactly. And so then we add him. So anybody at all can wake up and call himself a journalist.
Indeed, Beatrice Piogabra said that funeral MCs are being repackaged as morning show hosts and the rest.
Of course. And the funny thing is that, I don't know whether she mentioned that to you. The funny thing is that you have a system where you hear about poaching now.
Yes.
In the broadcasting field.
Just like what happens in football.
Good. And a journalist has been poached. And sometimes when you hear the figure, the person who sits behind the console and speak for say 7 to 10. He's paid anyway. Sometimes
Go ahead and speak up. I mean,
no, but it's very funny because these guys, sometimes, if you look at some of the media houses, these guys are giving huge sums of money. Yeah, cars are made available to them. Some can even go to work and leave their ignition on so the entire period that their show will last.
So the ACs will be running to chill the cars.
Exactly, and you go back. And you have people within that same media houses who are not paid well. But you see, whenever you mention some of these things, somebody will tell you Zufiasm. And it's a common thing now. So let's mind our own business.
But I think it's about time we talked against it, so that inequality, that exploitation, because the very people who are not paid well are those doing the donkey job, actually.
Exactly. And so during the World Press Freedom Day, one of the things I would have wished we talked about the more had to do with how journalists are paid, are resourced, because it's equally a very important subject. Look, journalists would want to talk about how others should be taken care of, sort of, but inwardly, you know your situation, and it's very difficult to go out there to talk about, I mean, how much you are paid and all those things. But why should that even be the case?
But some of the very people who could have started off that conversation are themselves corporate in this naked exploitation. So how do you expect the person who is neck deep in some of these things, to be speaking against it in one breath?
It's like I said, it's a sensitive because it is a very sensitive discussion, and
very well. Let's get a move on.
Find the time and talk about.
You've done more than 10 years. How many more years do you want to do before laying down your pen?
How many more? No, but I think that my journalism journey may actually end my work with
your working life.
My working life. It will probably end in a casket, because wherever I find myself, yes, even when I have moved on, I think, because for having spent a greater part of my time doing this, and just wake up just the next day and say, hey, I'm no longer going to practice as a journalist. So even if I become a doctor, I can still be a doctor, a journalist doctor, or still practicing within
helping us to understand things within the medical field.
Exactly. So I think that wherever I find myself, the journalism in me would still be around, and I would like to use that opportunity to bridge some gaps.
Let me put you on the spot. Should journalists be licensed?
Yes, to a large extent, I believe so. Because what is the essence of issuing licenses? It's just about being able to put people in check. You understand? When you go overboard. I hold a driver's license, for example. If I'm on the street and I'm driving and I drive recklessly, of course I could be arrested and taken to court. When I'm found guilty, my driver's license would held or would be cancelled, would be taken away from me, and that would mean that I wouldn't be driving again. And so, if journalists are licensed, I think that they would drive with,
I got you.
With caution, a lot of caution. Look, sometimes the situation has always been about looking at the things you are doing, the work you are doing. Whose interest is this story going to serve? Is it in the interest of the state? Or is it in the interest of my paymasters? You understand? If your paymasters are not the state or the larger people that you serve, that you are representing, the voiceless people that you are representing, why would you want to do something like that? A lot of the time, we see ourselves doing things that if we are licensed, we wouldn't be doing. And I think that, look, it may be an unpopular position, but yes, I would rightly want to agree with, issuing license for, and it will stop a lot of people from just getting up and also calling themselves journalists. You can't say that because you've been in a hospital environment for some time, you can call yourself a doctor. And same with going into the law profession. You can't just be saying that, I've been working at the court for some years now, and so I'm a lawyer. No, hell no. That's in our case, anybody at all says, and just like Beatrice said, I mean, said funeral
MCs, yes, funeral MCs.
Yes, it's pathetic, and so I strongly agree with that assertion.
Is there any time, apart from the mining, the illegal mining incident you narrated, is there any time your job has put your life in danger?
Well, maybe our lives are always in danger. I mean, if you look at the fact that we're always on the road, traveling here and there to take information, I mean, that's where it starts from. I mean, our lives are always in danger by being on the road, because it's the same road that somebody used and passed on, that you are an accident and died. That also driving to go and pick information. So, but I would also like to say that for me, the work I've done so far, I don't know, maybe because I've approached things with a lot of care and professionalism. I've avoided a lot of controversies that other people otherwise would face. Because if you and I want to have an interview with you, I would want to straight ahead tell you that, can I record for the purposes of my story? This discussion that we're having. And so I will record. So whatever you say, when I put it in a story, at the end of the day, you yourself, you even know that I recorded you. And so you cannot come back and tell me that, look, whatever you've written is not the fact. You understand? So, like I said, I have not faced such a situation where somebody would be asking me to, or trying to issue a rejoinder for a publication I did or that. But hey, about risking our lives, we risk it every day when we get up early in the morning. Sometimes we can be on a beat for almost the entire day, and you realize that you haven't even eaten. I mean, it's part of risking our lives. And so journalism, well.
Kizito Cudjoe has been my guest. PENSDOWN. This is where we talk journalism journeys. We open the curtains for you to see what happens behind the scenes, so that you can better appreciate the work that journalists, the reporters, the presenters, producers, what have you, the kind of things they go through, the kind of issues they grapple with before you get to hear that news. This has been PENSDOWN. We are grateful for your company. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next time with another edition. Take care.